Hi, welcome back to segment 2 of Ask the Experts. Our focus for this segment will be really honing in on mid-market space, BPO, and the banking and finance arena. We're going to talk specifically about how-to, best practices, if you will, for outsourcing in this space. I'm joined to my immediate left by Rama Ariyar with SLK Global. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Marty Pine, you're still here to help us out with Experience Counts. I appreciate it, gentlemen. So let's continue. Where we left off moments ago was really talking about the challenges, the definition around this mid-market space, trying to get some shape and definition around it. Let's talk about how one actually outsources. I mean, we've agreed that there are some unique challenges there. And Rama, you brought up some interesting points as we were discussing earlier today about the fact that from your experience, the outsourcing process is somewhat atypical in many cases. Can you talk to that? Let's start with the RFP. Where's the RFP?
Right, that's an interesting question that you're asking, Frank. Honestly, when we go out to the market, oftentimes we get inquiries from our customers. They don't know how the RFP process works. They literally want a vendor to handhold them through the process, and they don't have the resources and the time and energy to manage through the RFP process before they start seeing some results. So they want maybe a faster process, process where they are guided through, and probably that's a better way of doing it, because we have seen in many instances that it's easier to pilot a proof of concept, test out a certain process, quickly show the results, and then engage with a wider organization, especially for the mid-tier organizations.
So Marty, help us out here. I'm sure you may be experiencing mild anxiety, thinking of a scenario where maybe there's no RFP, but think of the challenge, right? So there's minimal, in many cases, minimal expertise there, and maybe zero expertise with regard to outsourcing. And there's a time challenge, right? So they want to get there quickly. Have you ever experienced a scenario where someone in the mid-market space is outsourcing and there's no RFP? How does one pull that off?
Yeah, I think that happens quite a bit. I think the issue with RFP is most people don't know how to write one. And even if they know how to write it, they don't know how to score it when it comes back in. So they waste a lot of time putting stuff out, getting vendors to respond to it, and then don't know what to do with the results of it, right? Is it the best 3 out of 5, whatever results I get? That's where sourcing advisors, things like the Outsourcing Institute that has an RFP generator comes in. But I think in general, there are people that will go out in specific industry areas, mortgage processing for one, to take a look at an account that they, or a firm that they know can deliver in that space. But in more broad general terms, if you don't know where to go, you need to do some research. You need to get, I think, a champion internally that's going to stand up for what's going on. If there's any lessons I've learned in 21 years of doing both ITO and BPO outsourcing, it's have someone in the firm that's an executive, that's a champion behind you. Then determine what your objectives are, and then go and research, not necessarily the location. You don't pick India or China or the United States. You pick a firm that has the capabilities that you need, and then find a way to make some differentiation between them. I think the RFP process has gotten overblown over time. I think purchasing people will force you that way, and when you either don't have a strong purchasing organization or you don't have the time, there are other ways to go about it, as Rama has said.
Mm-hmm. So Rama, I'm sure there are people watching this now saying, my goodness, if we don't put an RFP out there, how could we be sure that we're paying the right price or getting the right deal? How would you answer that?
The way to go about it is identify what's your objective for outsourcing. Define those objectives clearly upfront. If you are not in a position to define it upfront, ask the person that you're engaging with, the vendor or the consultant that you're engaging with, to define it for you. Draw that clarity upfront, and then you can go through the journey fairly easily. What happens many a times, as Marty mentioned, is that people go through the RFP process because everybody goes through. That's the right way to do. That's what they think. Whereas, your organization is not geared to manage that process. You are better off doing it in a simpler way, in a quicker way, by testing, piloting few processes, testing out the concept, and then moving on with it. So defining clearly the success criteria upfront is very important too.
Okay, so, and I know we're getting tight on time here, but I want to squeeze in one more question, and we touched on this briefly earlier today. How does one know if they're actually too small, right, in the mid-market space? Is there such a thing as a bank or someone in the financial space that's actually too small to outsource?
It's an interesting question again. One has to do a due diligence to define, whether that company lends itself to outsourcing or not, because it's not just about cost saving. You have to see what are the benefits that one can derive in the form of improved quality, improved turn time, and productivity, and what is the cost of doing that. Many a times when you do that cost benefit analysis, somebody might be seen to be a very small organization, may not be able to reap the benefits of outsourcing. But for example, our organization, SLK Global, the way we position it is, we try to create a platform where aggregate of such small players can come at the back office, we service them, and each one individually may not have been able to derive the benefit, but because we have the scale for servicing a lot of small players, there is a scale built up at our end, and they are able to derive that benefit even though they are small individually. So one can look at such an option for engagement with mid-tier service providers.
Okay, fine. So we're talking about a couple of really good tips early on, Marty. Thank you for that. And also this concept of you may not need an RFP, right? An RFP may unnecessarily create additional cost, additional time, and maybe even create a scenario where there's some additional risks unnecessarily. So that's a controversial but interesting point. And my sense is more and more people will be taking that route in the mid-market space.
Right.
So thank you both, gentlemen. And hopefully this was valuable to you. Our next segment will be doing a deeper dive on vendor selection. What is it that a mid-market banker or someone in the financial space should be looking for in their BPO provider? Hope to see you there.